It is Monday here on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Another podcast episode here with Chris Carter and Ray Fittipaldo, your Steelers writers here breaking things down every week. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily content from all of our sports writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And today's episode is brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. They also do workers' compensation because when you've been hurt on the job, you need to know whose sides when you're better. That's the insurance company's doctors. They decide when your treatments are over, when your benefits are over. They won't be on your side. So you need someone who is on your side. That's Edgar Snyder Associates. Call them today at 1-800-94-EDGAR. They'll fight for the workers' compensation rights you deserve. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Ray, you and Jerry covered this a bit after the game, but that was a wild 21-14 win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. Certainly a win is a win, and it was I think that, there's plenty of playmaking to go around. 5 forced turnovers, plus the turnover on downs in the end. They do get the win, and we'll focus on the offense in a bit because they also had a mixed bag of a day. But right. I think that while the defense still gave up 360 plus yards again, their ability to be playmakers was something that you were wondering if that would return after 2 weeks, because TJ Watt hadn't gotten a sack. There weren't all the splash plays, and then all of a sudden this game it was splash play galore because they were all over the place.
Yeah, and I thought the pass rush had a lot to do with that, Chris. 5 sacks in the game. It started early. Derek Harmon got his first career sack on that first drive, and then it was pretty consistent throughout. They had a lot of pressure on Drake Maye. Maye escaped on a few occasions, actually hurt them with his legs a few times. But I think when you get pressure like that, it added a whole new dynamic to the Steelers' defense. Now, it wasn't perfect. I mean, they're still giving up 386 yards per game in the first 3 games. But they got that total down a little bit this week to 368. And I think that pass rush actually led to a lot of those turnovers. Obviously, the biggest one being Nick Herbig's strip sack midway through the 4th that set up the Steelers' game-winning drive. But, I mean, those turnovers were coming fast and furious. And, listen, if you're not going to be a shutdown defense, that's given up 250, 275 yards per game, you better turn the ball over, and the Steelers did that on Sunday.
They certainly did. I mean, in different ways too, right? Because it wasn't just Cole Holcomb or Cam Heyward punching the ball out from Ramondre Stevenson. Cam Heyward tipping that ball in the end zone, and Brandin Echols being right on it. Even with Cam Heyward tipping the ball, Brandin Echols was kind of sitting on that route to jump on. He was trying to bait that throw. And I mean, Cam Heyward still deserves the credit for being part of that. But I think this is something, we see the Steelers, they practice this, they practice creating turnovers. They practice punching the ball out. And whereas you can't plan, turnovers aren't a schematic thing that you can plan upon, but they are a thing that you can work on and get ready for. And this was a game where clearly that was a strength that was in their favor because they were able to punch it out at key times. And also, like you said, when they're getting after the quarterback, you're causing all sorts of other issues back there as well.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin and TJ Watt mentioned this after the game. Going into that game, Ramondre Stevenson had 14 career fumbles. He now has 16, and he was benched after the second one. So that was a point of emphasis all week. They knew they can get the ball out if they punched at it, and it didn't stop there. They were able to pick off Drake Maye and really be effective, with both forced fumbles and with interceptions in this game. So, luckily for the Steelers, Stevenson didn't take care of the ball. The big one being the one down near the goal line that really I thought was, there are so many turning points in that game, you could say, for the defense. You could say that play by Heyward at the end of the first half, the tip. You could say the beginning drive of the second half where Heyward got the strip, or obviously the Herbig play. It was just, just a sea of big plays for the Steelers. And they needed all 5 of those turnovers to win the game. If they only had 4, I don't know that they win that game. Right. And it's lucky for them, and we'll maybe get to this in the next segment, but it's lucky for them that Jonnu Smith's fumble slowly rolled out of bounds. Because if they turn the ball over in their own territory there, I don't think they win that game either.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's how the ball bounces sometimes, right? Like, Caleb Johnson lets a ball bounce over his head, flips the Seahawks a 7-point game, 7-point gain in a tight game, and like sometimes that's what it was. And this is something that the Steelers talked about this week, is that, like, look, they in tight games you can't be the one who's making the biggest mistakes, and in this game they didn't. They made some mistakes. Aaron Rodgers' interception, was pretty rough, and again we'll get to him in a bit. But, the defense capitalizing on opportunities that, they also created, 5 sacks. You talked about Derek Harmon getting a sack. Cam Heyward got a sack. TJ Watt got 2 sacks in this game. Nick Herbig had the sack and forced fumble. I think that one thing that might have happened there, and I have to go back and look at the all-22 to see what happened on the back end of those sacks, because as the Steelers will tell you, pressure creates interceptions. Coverage creates sacks. And whereas the coverage was kind of busted on some plays, like that second touchdown where Peyton Wilson, it looked like, just left Connor Henry all the wide open for that touchdown. I think there might have been some good coverage on the back end of several of those sacks that forced Drake Maye to hold on to the ball, because he was not hesitating much in this game. When he saw something, he was letting it rip. So if he wasn't throwing the ball, that tells me that maybe the Steelers were doing something positive in the back end of those plays.
Yeah, I think we should point out that, Jalen Ramsey moved around like he always does, but I saw him more at safety today than I did corner. It was a lot of Darius Slay and Brandin Echols, and then Slay actually was in and out. He got kicked by his own teammate. I think Derek Harmon kicked him early in the game, and Pierre was in there. I don't know how many snaps Pierre got, but it was for more than a short stretch. So they were down really with their corners. Anytime James Pierre was out there, they're hurting with the injury. So I don't know if Joey Porter's going to come back this week for the Vikings game, or if they're going to rest him one more week and he can come back after the bye. But opportunistic day for this defense. But really, Drake Maye, for long stretches of this game, Chris, just had his way with the Steelers defense. I mean, he was hitting open receivers. He was hurting them with his legs on scrambles. In a lot of ways, this was similar to the Jets and Seahawks game. It's just that Drake Maye and the Patriots turned the ball over much more than the Jets and the Seahawks did. And quite honestly, plain and simple, that's why they lost this football game.
No, I agree. Turnovers kill you, and that's something that Mike Tomlin preaches a lot, is being able to create those turnovers and limiting them on the other side of the ball there. I did think that, Drake Maye was throwing the ball where he wanted to a lot in this game. You look at overall on the day, the Patriots went 6 of 13 on third downs for 46%, but 4 of 5 on fourth downs. And granted, that one stop was at the end there where the Steelers won the game. But what did you see was that the root of the Steelers giving up for the third and long plays that they were, because that kept happening at key points?
Yeah, I marked this down. So they were 10 for 18 on third and fourth down conversions, 4 for 5 on fourth. So, the one thing, and Teryl Austin talked about this late last season, if you remember, Chris, like those third and mediums, let's say like 3rd and 7, they would always get it to a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2 to make it manageable. And they didn't have a lot of respect for the Steelers defense, and they were going for it on 4th down, including one on their own 15-yard line.
Yeah.
That tells you right there. They do not respect the Steelers defense. So that was very interesting to me. I also marked down here, I believe they had 2 3rd and 10s or more, and they converted both in this game, including a 3rd and 13. I mean, the issues for the Steelers run deep. There was a time, Chris, where if it was 3rd and 13, you were looking for a strip sack. You knew they weren't going to complete it. The ball would be out in a hurry. That's just not happening now. There was one play. They showed the replay on CBS. Watt and Herbig were double teamed. None of the defensive linemen, 3 defensive linemen in the game, none of the 3 defensive linemen were able to apply any pressure to hurry Drake Maye. So I don't want to lay it all off on the defensive line, but we know TJ Watt's commanding attention. And I thought Nick Herbig commanded a lot of attention today as well. At some point, and Heyward did have a sack, but at some point, Keanu Benton has to do something other than make one tackle in a game.
Yep.
Okay. Y.A. Black had 2 tackles. I thought Harmon was good in his limited number of snaps. You never heard about Logan Lee today.
Yeah.
I mean, they just need playmakers up front. And other than Cam Heyward, they're just not getting a lot of that right now.
And there's certainly a problem when you're not getting it up there, but that's supposed to be a strength of yours. You want to win in the trenches, and you're selectively winning in the trenches, like you're noting there. I do think that's something the Steelers that could come back to haunt them if they don't clean up some of those things, those third and longs you're talking about there. Some of those plays where Drake Maye has time. Now I will say some of the plays they're even in position to win, like that 4th and 1 that they went for on their own 15. Steelers had it locked up. Cole Holcomb just gets whipped. And all he has to do is just stay home and keep the guy in front of you. You tackle him, and then you give the ball back. That game probably gets over before half if he makes that play. So I think that there's several points where the Steelers, they have what they want in front of them. They have it lined up, but like there's just one breakdown somewhere, like Peyton Wilson just not covering the guy on the second touchdown. And you see Patrick Queen almost as soon as it's happening, he points at him like, that's your man, and just not being there. Those are the things that this team has to clean up. But again, I think it comes down to sometimes like the assignments and guys sticking to them, which hey. There's rotations and things that maybe that they're still doing because certain guys are out. Deshaun Elliott would probably be in a lot of the places where Chuck Clark is getting picked on. Joey Porter Jr. would help you in spots where you don't have to rotate Ramsey around as much. Or you can, but put him in more advantageous situations to you. I will say this though, of the DBs, I thought Brandin Echols deserved some praise for his play, because I thought the DPI was kind of rough on him because the receiver on the replay, they show the receiver grab his arm and throw him down. And then he gets that interception just before the first half. And then to make that tackle in the short space on 4th and 1, it felt reminiscent of one of the other times the Steelers have beaten Mike Vrabel when Joe Hayden stopped the guy on 4th down.
Yeah, I think Brandin Echols, we've heard Teryl Austin and Mike Tomlin talk about him throughout training camp. So, they've got injuries right now. They needed him to step up. And as you mentioned, he did a good job. So I think the bottom line is, Chris, the Steelers defense has to play much better. I think we all know they're not going to be able to win these types of games very often. But listen, Darius Slay said it earlier this week, and I think it's worth repeating. When he was with the Eagles last year, we all know they had a Super Bowl season. The Eagles were 2-2. They weren't playing well. And Darius Slay said, we just had to find a way to start winning football games any way possible. And that's what they did. And then eventually they came together. The chemistry was there. They went on this long, deep run in the playoffs, and we all know what happened. I'm not predicting that's going to take place for the Steelers, but sometimes you have to win ugly in the NFL. The Steelers did that today, and I do think eventually, Chris, it can't be this bad all season. Eventually, these guys have to start playing better. There's just too much talent on this defense, too much money wrapped up in this defense for them to play this bad all season long.
Hey, the Packers certainly wish they could have won ugly today. They lost 13-10 at the Cleveland Browns. Certainly a factor there. But let's talk about this offense, because they had their struggles too. Either they came up in big moments like the defense did to get enough for the win. We'll talk about that next here on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo, stick with us. We'll be right back. We're back here on the North Shore Drive podcast for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo. I want to remind you this show is also brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you're having trouble to find the right people to hire and you're tired of sorting through endless resumes, the future of hiring looks much brighter with ZipRecruiter. It saves you valuable time, so you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. See a candidate you're really interested in, you can unlock their contact info instantly. Use ZipRecruiter and save time hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you could try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter.com/audio. The smartest way to hire. We also want to thank Goldberg, Persky, and White If you're diagnosed with mesothelioma and lung cancer, call them at Gold, Percy and White. For over 40 years, their firm has represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. All right, Ray, let's talk about this offense. Started out on fire, came out with that run the ball down their throats. Then they were able to move the ball through the air just enough to score on a short possession coming off an early stop. And then after that, they just went quiet, 3 and out, end of half, 3 and out, interception, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then a 5 and out. You talked about it earlier. It just seemed like everything went away. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden, end of the game, they need a touchdown drive. They get one, 9 plays, 67 yards there. What did you see as the big thing that got in the Steelers' way once things slowed down on them?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, I would say they were opportunistic today, but there wasn't a whole lot of good in between those first 2 touchdown drives and the last. I hate to keep harping on the offensive line, Chris, but the offensive line can't run block very well. I thought, Zach Frazier and the 2 guards today really had a hard time penetrating. There were times where, they were asking Mason McCormick to reach a guy, and Zach Frazier wasn't even putting a hand on him. So you have to secure the first level first, and you can't let these guys just get into the backfield and tackle guys like Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell for negative yardage. That never works. So taking care of the first level and then working up to the second level, they got to do a much better job of that. 2.5 yards per carry is not going to cut it. On a positive, I did think because the running game wasn't working, they did substitute the short passing game, and that got them going a little bit. Jaylen Warren, I mean, Chris, again, for the second week in a row, Jaylen Warren is your leading receiver too. I mean, if that doesn't tell you about the state of the Steelers passing game, I don't know what does. So they're whether those guys aren't getting open or what, but it just, to me, it starts with the lack of a running game, and everything sort of spins off that. It wasn't pretty, but Rodgers found a way to get it done in the end, and I guess we do have to give him and Calvin Austin a little bit of credit for that.
Certainly. And I just thought it was interesting how early on they run the ball. I mean, literally that first drive, it was all runs and then a defensive pass interference call on the guy guarding Darnell Washington, and then a run to finish it. So like they shove it down their throats. And then the next drive, they get the ball back and they score again. This time they do move the ball around a bit there. And they're able to make things work, but it ends with DK Metcalf catching a touchdown in the end zone. Also, Jonnu Smith catching a pass for 21 yards. I felt like the problem was in between those 2 drives and then the final touchdown drive, there wasn't a lot of vertical passing. There wasn't a lot of getting the ball. A lot of their passing was quick pop pass to the sideline, try to get the screen game going, or catch Jaylen Warren out in the flat or someone in play action in the flat. And I thought the Patriots were sitting on that stuff after a while, and they were kind of like, you know what, beat us downfield. We dare you. And then it was like when Aaron Rodgers did, when he went after the slant to Calvin Austin and he hit that on the first play of their last touchdown drive, all of a sudden the Patriots like, wait, what? They called our bluff, and then everything else opened up. The run game opened up on that drive. The pass game was more open. I think that this might be a sign that the Steelers may get to a point where they can trust the O-line to run block better and to push people off the ball consistently, regardless of their alignment, and that you can just run the ball and grind people out. Maybe they get there someday. But right now, that's not there. And the best weapon that this offense has as far as picking up what defenses aren't doing well, it's Aaron Rodgers' brain. And when he's able to see and dissect and do and check into the play that gets you that opportunity, you need to take advantage of it, because when you hit on one thing, it forces defenses to either let you keep hitting that thing or adjust. And when they adjust, then you go at something else that they're taking away the help from.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was one point, Chris, I think it was at the end of the third quarter. The Steelers had 133 yards going into the fourth quarter. At that point, the Patriots had like 260 or 280 something, maybe even over 300. Just the balance in that football game, it was just totally dominated in a lot of ways by the Patriots, other than the turnover. So they got to find a way to get DK Metcalf unleashed. Like, that's kind of something that's not being talked about right now. They're paying that guy $30 million a year, and he did a nice job keep getting both feet in bounds. Don't get me wrong, that was a big play in this football game, but I think he only had 32 yards receiving.
Yep.
Pat Freiermuth, you're paying him $12.5 million a year, or $13 million, whatever you're paying him. He had one catch for 6 yards. Jonnu Smith, they're paying a bunch of money to. He had like 23 yards receiving. Like, they're paying guys like they have weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these guys are overpaid. I don't know, but they have guys who can make plays, and right now, for whatever reason, it's not happening. So they got to get back in the lab, as Mike Tomlin says, and they got a bunch to figure out this week. Listen, they're paying a backup quarterback next week in Minnesota, in Dublin, and Carson Wentz actually had a pretty good game. He didn't light it up. I think the Vikings had a pick six and
two defensive touchdowns.
So it wasn't like Carson Wentz dominated them, but they're going to have to find ways to move the football in better fashion than they did today, or I'm telling you, it's not going to be pretty. I mean, this offense has to get going. They have to show some semblance of a running game, and they have to get more out of their star players. Whether you think they're stars or not, they're paying big money to DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, and Jonnu Smith. Those are the guys who have to produce.
Absolutely, I agree. But as coaches often tell you, it's better to learn from a win than to learn from a loss, because again, it's these wins, Ray, where this is an AFC win too. So you get to the end of the season, if they're back at 10-7 or 11-6, and they're trying to fight for a better playoff spot, having these wins instead of having to make up for losses is a much better situation to be in. We'll keep our eyes on everything here in Pittsburgh before the Steelers head out to Dublin and for their Ireland game against Minnesota next week. Keep it here with the North Shore Drive podcast and all things written at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. Find this show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We'll see you here throughout the week as we continue all our daily content coverage from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all the sports coverage from the Post-Gazette that we have to offer, visit post-gazette.com.